Hello and welcome to this episode of Compensation Insider. Today, I would like to talk about a question that I received a few years ago from one of my readers, and it's about how to use different surveys that have very different results in the same country. So the person wrote to me and they said, I'm doing a compensation survey for the entire organization, and I have two trustworthy data sources that vary greatly on a few technology positions. In order to calculate a number to use to compare incumbent salaries to the market, would an average of the two data points be appropriate? I'm having a hard time with a few things about that. When I look at the variance between the 2 points from the two different surveys, I know from recent recruiting efforts that the technology source is considerably more accurate, but it's not the source that we will be using for the rest of the company. There's a 75% variance between the source that we're using for the whole company versus the source that seems more accurate for our technology jobs. So I almost feel as if I should weigh the technology source more heavily, but I'm asking for other opinions before I do. So the person was a little bit confused. So here's my advice. Generally speaking, I think that if you participate in two different surveys, you should decide in advance and generally speaking, which survey would be the main source for which kind of jobs. Okay, if you participate in a survey which is industry specific or job specific or job family specific, I think it's important that you use that data as a, generally speaking, as a primary source of information compared to a more general market type of survey. So in the case of technology job, if you have a technology industry survey, that might be more accurate. If you have, I don't know, a marketing survey focused just on marketing jobs, then use that for marketing roles because they will have positions that fit really with the current trends of the kind of roles that exist in either in that industry or that kind of job family, and use the general market survey for all the positions where you are recruiting from pretty much anywhere. So all the support functions and so on, it doesn't really matter if an HR person has experience. It's better sometimes, but that's not like life and death if the person doesn't have experience in a specific industry and so on. So I would say this is how you can decide, generally speaking. Now, if a job has data coming from both sources of information, you need to decide if you're going to use only one of the surveys or if you are going to use both surveys and put a weight to prioritize. And I would say that, as I was saying earlier, if the job is a position which is coming from an industry specific or a job family specific survey, you might want to weigh that survey more if you decide to use both. But never forget to also look at the data on a job by job basis. So for each job, the salary survey provider should tell you the number of companies that submitted data, the number of incumbents that they have, so the number of people that have been submitted, and you should also have the list of companies which participated in the survey. So that means that let's imagine you have the technology survey and you have a technology job and you have data both from the general market and the technology survey on that position. And your initial way of thinking would be, well, the technology survey would be a more relevant source of information. So for those jobs, I'll take the technology survey as my main source of information, maybe accounting for 75% of the total, or I give it twice as much weight as the general market survey, if you, depending how you want to weigh. But maybe for that specific position in the technology survey, you only had like 5 companies that submitted 10 incumbents, while in the general market survey for that specific job, you end up having, I don't know, 55 incumbents from, I don't know, 22 different companies. So in that case, I would, for that specific position, do the market pricing by prioritizing probably more the data that is coming from the general survey, as an exception to my general rule that I would normally prioritize the industry survey. Now, if the numbers based on other information that you have, as the person was mentioning, you know, like facility or difficulty to recruit, how different is the data compared to your internal pay? Do you have high turnover or not? And so on. If one of the two surveys seems completely off, it might be better to not use it at all, rather than keep those numbers that might distort the market pricing for that position, either up or down. So it's really important actually that even though you have a set of internal guiding points on how you're going to weigh, you do that on a job-by-job basis to establish the market values, and especially if those positions are core for you in terms of your business success. Obviously, if there are positions that are not so central to your success as an organization, they're not your core strategic type of positions, then probably you're just as good not considering those specific data and just deprioritizing it. So I hope this helps. Unfortunately, you cannot, as you can see, you cannot have like do this or do that. Just try to think in advance what will be your theoretical approach to be consistent across all positions, and to have a way that if you're going to do the market pricing and you get a question from management about why you gave more weight to that survey or that survey, you have the reason why, you know why, and so you're credible with your decision. One of the things that I used to do as well in the past, when there was like some doubt or some job families that were really important for the business, is once I'd done that market pricing, I would come back to the business and say, look, this is how we're looking at it. This is my methodology. This is how we come to those numbers. What do you think? I was not giving an opportunity for the management to make me change and tell them up front, you know, I'm going to just take whatever you tell me, but their feedback was important sometimes to help me sometimes tweak or understand why there was a difference, and they might be able to help me guide in my thinking in some cases. And the software that we had a good way for us to track those kind of let's say decision factors, which would allow us, even if it's open 1 year later, that we would still remember why we had made that kind of decision. So that was really useful. If you don't have that in a software, just take some notes in a document somewhere and put it on your shared drive. Make sure that it's available for next year when you're going to do the analysis again next year, because maybe situation has changed completely and you want to change the way you're doing, or you have a reinforcement of the decision that you took. So this is going to be helpful as well. So I hope this was useful for you. And if you have seen some of those situations and you want to share, please don't hesitate. Share in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next week in the upcoming episode of Compensation Insider. Thank you very much.